Hey everybody, welcome to The Remedy. Hi, I'm your host, Tony Pantelleresco, and you're listening to us live on the Micro Effect Broadcasting Network. You can access the show by typing in www.themicroeffect.com. Then click on the appropriate links, the chat room links. Come on in, make friends, get acquainted, save the planet, come up with ideas, brainstorm. You can do it. I'm published on many different sites, augmentedforce.com, byebyebluesky.com, brian396.com, gadcanada.com, and anywhere you look up Augmented Force or my name or YouTube, you'll somewhere along the way you may find something that I may have had to said. So feel free to access. I'm going to get into it today. I'm going to get into cartoons. I like cartoons. I like a good cartoon just like anybody else. You know, I'm all for watching a good cartoon. But there's one thing to watch a cartoon, but there's another thing to believe in the cartoon. You know, we watch Mickey Mouse and we watch Bugs Bunny and we watch, Rocky and Bullwinkle and we watch whatever cartoons in your vicinity, But we know these are cartoons and we're not supposed to believe in a cartoon. Well, NASA is the biggest cartoon out there. It is the cartoon of cartoons. I gotta tell you. Anyone who still believes that NASA is a scientific community needs to reevaluate what the word science means. Now, we got perpetrators and we got bogus, schmogus salespeople that are selling materials, carbon C60 for instance, and they have stated and shown unequivocally how on a rat study it can increase the lifespan of a rat by 100 bazillion times more than normal. Let me tell you something. It sounds too good to be true. It ain't. It ain't. I got a study here. I was looking at all kinds of tech things I wanted to talk about today, and I wanted to get into the tech stuff because we need to get teched up. Let's get teched up, right? Let's get all teched up because we got to know our enemy. We have to know our adversary, and we have to understand what we're dealing with. So when somebody comes along and hands you a line of bunk and bullshit and propaganda and sales and goofy, juicy, loosey, whatever, you got to be able to determine that you are being held and being fed a lot of bullshit and bunk and sales. So I'm going to show you something here. Okay, NASA has made some proclamations about, or I shouldn't say NASA directly, indirectly, the NASA representatives that sell their satanic nonsense is telling you how this is a wonderful product and how blah, and how the studies were flawed because they used contaminated material in the way they did the studies. Well, I happened to find a document. I had it for quite some time, and I just got to start working on it today. And I'm looking at this study, and I'm scratching my head. How in the world did they interpret this study the way they did? They must have some incompetent scientists there. They apparently don't know how to read and don't know how to read English. I know, I looked at the study, and I'm thinking to myself, they used the term pristine. Well, the term pristine means clean and purified. And they were saying that the studies that were showing embryonic damage and all kinds of damage to the aquatic life and nature and other animals and rats and other things had a contaminant to it. Well, let me tell you something about the contaminant, shall I? There was a product out a while back called Adia Clarity. And Adia Clarity was supposed to collect all the pollutants in the water that you were drinking so you would have 100% purified water. But what the perpetrators of that product forgot to tell you was that, and they said the Japanese were using it to filter their water, which was all true except for some little details they left out of that equation. Number one, the guy that was supposed to have discovered this stuff had been dead for 80 years, so I doubt very seriously that guy had done anything because he was already in the box. Number two, AD clarity, when they used it, they used to use a reverse osmosis system to remove the AD clarity out of the water because it concentrated the pollutants that it filtered. Now, let's flash forward a little in time and let's take a look at C60. Well, they found that C60 had the same capacity, that when you used it to mediate water, like they were telling us, they got a new and improved means of filtering all the pollution in the water. What it actually does is it increasingly, exponentially increases the toxicity of those toxins in the water. So if you're consuming C60 and you got any kind of pollutant inside your body, it can actually exacerbate those pollutants and make them that much more toxic. Whoa, that's a little detail they forgot to tell you, don't you think? Then it also has a means of collecting oxygen and hydrogen and concentrating hydrogen. And I've been telling you for a while that terahertz frequencies uses hydrogen in order to amplify its detrimental and destructive effects in the cells and on the DNA. Well, lo and behold, guess what this thing does? It increases the velocity of the hydrogen collection and so allows the terahertz frequencies to cause that much more damage. What's this going to do with 5G? Whoa. Here we go. We're going to believe the mad scientists of NASA, or the mad sorcerers of NASA. So when we're looking at, now I'm going to get into the study here so you can actually see it. You can interpret it yourself. If you want a copy, I'll send you a copy. You can read it. And if you've got friends who are using that crap, you can show them the study, actual studies. Environmentally, it actually increases the toxic effect of the pollutants in the environment. If it's given to mammals, given to aquatics, it actually causes huge amounts of damage to the inside, especially the mitochondria, which is your energy producing material, part of your body. And it also crashes the ATP. Ooh, ATP minus mitochondria equals death. Integrating this material into your system can exacerbate and accelerate your destruction of your mitochondria and your DNA. Now, they also point out that they're using an oil-based blah, blah, blah. Well, this is interesting because when you look at it, it doesn't matter what you mix it with, it amplifies it. So if you got any contaminant in that oil, it's also going to amplify that too. So all these people making whatever proclamation and claims on this product is a bunch of happy horse hockey. So when we're looking at AD Clarity's ADYA, it's still being sold actually in some of the health food stores today. Some of them got rid of it because they saw the implications of what this was doing and they thought they didn't want no part of it. There are still some distributors out there still believing that this product is what it is. But they've never really researched the product and how the Japanese actually use this material and how then they reverse osmose the water to get the concentrated pollutants out. Because they're using the same similar technology. They're using a carbon C60 type material or a carbon fullerene material to filter out the water. But then they got to remove that contaminant out because it actually concentrates and amplifies the toxicity. So this is what they're selling to you today. This is why I started talking about cartoons, because the YouTube is propagating cartoons a lot of times. And they can come in the way of people propagating products that ain't worth a fiddler's fart. And here you are watching these people propagate whatever they're propagating, and then some of you get sucked in because you don't read. Reading is fundamental. Okay, fundamental. Mental. M-E-N-T-A-L. Break the word down. Fundamental. Mental. Mental. You need to educate yourself and understand in your mind, in your brain, not through the entertainment frequencies, not through the blue beam frequencies, not through the cartoon channels, what is up and down. Some of you write to me and say, oh, I'm so confused, I don't know what to do anymore. I look at you and scratch my head half the time. Is it so hard to pick up a piece of literature and read it? And examine both sides of the coin. See, let me give you a way to help you out here. See, the health food industry is going to sell you something based on some kind of hocus pocus, smokus, shocus, whatever. Okay? And everything is going to be 100%, oh yeah, this is going to cure everything. You take this one pill and it's going to give you whatever. It's going to give you a better heart, a better brain. You're going to have x-ray vision. You're going to be able to leap tall buildings. Bulls are going to bounce off you. You're going to be the sex object of all men and the sex object of all women. And you're going to have a tight tush. You're going to lose that unwanted 99 pounds you have. And so forth and so on. That's the health food industry. Take these protein powders and you're going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, because Arnold Schwarzenegger used these protein powders. Arnold Schwarzenegger was on they were on mild anabolics and they were eating steak and eggs and fat. So when you hear the health food industry proclaiming whatever bullsh they're proclaiming, it's always going to be in their favor, saying that this is going to be. They did the same thing with soy. Soy is going to protect you women's breasts. Your breasts are going to be protected. You're going to have your bone density increase. You're going to have strength and vitality. It's going to help you lose body mass. It's going to be the miracle food of the world. You ate the crap, you lost your minds, you had estrogens overload, you wind up with more cancers, and your bone density shrunk all at the same time. And some of you had intestinal damage from eating the soy, and kidney damage. But the health food industry, if you believe that nonsense, said, oh yeah, this is the great stuff, it's going to be, and the omega-3 was another one. Oh, it's going to be good for the brain. It's going to be good for this. It's the most contaminated food on the planet with heavy metals and industrial waste. And they're all oxidized. So how can this be of any benefit to anybody? Unless you're a garbage disposal unit. Then we're just loading you up with garbage because then they don't have to pay for the cleanup of all that waste. Same with the soy. And now we're in the year 2018. Artificial intelligence is running the planet. AI has a DNA operating system. And in this operating system, it's running at quintillions of a second. 50 million operations per second after operating at quintillions of speeds, exaflops, petaflops speeds, using DNA. And here we are in today's time, being exposed to terahertz frequencies, microwave frequencies, infrared frequencies, AM and FM frequencies, radio frequencies, ELF frequencies, EMF frequencies, and frequencies that we don't even know we're being hit with satellite transmissions or tower transmissions. And we're consuming materials that makes us hyperconductive. Hyperconductive. All this sugar that they fed everybody in North America and throughout the world was to caramelize the cells so that the proteins in the body would be bound with the sugar carbon molecules so that the DNA and the carbon would act as a high impact accelerator of these frequencies that would cause a major breakdown in not only DNA, mitochondria, ATP. In other words, would hyper accelerate your aging. Okay. All the silicon that they put in the food supply, the nanosilica, the dimatrous earth they were spreading in the food supply that you were consuming and absorbing, it too was designed to, again, hyper accentuate the fields and the frequencies so that when they hit your skeletal system, they hit your core, they started to break you down. Now we got into carbon. See, Brian 396 and myself, when we started looking at nano poisoning back 8 years ago, initially they were using silica as the conductive material to transport the frequencies throughout. Then they found that carbon was better. It was harder, it had a better conductivity to it, it was a better conduit, it lasted longer, and you could control the frequencies far better. Ergo, they started substituting carbon, C60, instead of silica. And then they decided to combine both the silica and the carbon to create a synthetic life. You can look it up. Yeah, you must be in the in California, because I know California. Somebody's writing here. Tony, in 30 days we have the first U.S. referendum for the carbon fee to go on the ballot. There's a carbon-themed 38-page document. The government wants to run for president and carbon fee the country. Yeah, well, that's a raping coming down the pipe, squirrel, because they're doing that crap here in Canada too. It's just a money grab. Just a total money grab. They already have the technology to remove the methane out of the sky, which is a high concentration of carbon. That's all it is. Oh yeah. That's what they're saying now, is it? Okay. For starters, AD clarity primarily composed of sulfuric acid, iron sulfate, and aluminum sulfate before being diluted and bottled. AD clarity starts out as a Termarex, a mineral deposit. Yeah, right. That's what they're saying now, are they? Interesting. When we're looking at all these things that they're bringing into the game, carbon is the main player. And carbon will be in everything today. Yeah, I know. They got hit so hard, everybody yanked it off the shelf. It was almost on every health food store's shelf, and they had the stuff loaded. I mean loaded. And actually, it was Mike Ranger that came out with the expose on it. I'm not a big fan of Mike Ranger, I'll tell you straight out. But when I looked at that, I knew he was right, because the guy that brought out the AD clarity, I knew he was a con guy as well. So when I saw that going on, then I decided to do my own research on this thing. Not current what they're talking about. The guy that was supposed to have discovered this stuff had been dead for 80 years and had nothing to do with it at all. They just found somebody's grave and they threw out his name, and there it was. Yep. It's all BS. If they're trying to bring that carbon tax in the United States, you better vote it down, because it's another cash grab to screw you guys in the U.S. They're already doing it to us in Canada, or they're trying to do it to us in Canada. It's all bunk. All of it. There's the carbon up there. This is what they've done with the carbon tax, just so you know. Countries that don't produce a lot of carbon emissions are being paid by countries that do. This is how they're getting around it. Canada has the capacity to absorb more carbon than any other place in the world except for the Amazon. So what's happening now is everyone is paying Canada to offset their polluting the air with carbon. And then Canada turned around and started taxing us on a carbon tax. Why, I don't know, because we've got more than enough trees to absorb all the carbon. We don't produce that much carbon in Canada, yet here we are being taxed. And if they're doing this in the United States, it's nothing but baloney. You can go look it up yourself. They already have the means to filter out and to clean up the carbon in the atmosphere. All that methane that's up there is a form of carbon. All of it. And they can filter that out, they can break that down, and they can remove it now. And they've had the technology for at least 2 years. So, I read these things, understand them. When we're looking at the carbon C60, this thing is pure bunk. What time is it? In the second half, we're going to go through the report and the research on it. You can see for yourself how they contorted the research, how they stated how the research had, when they first tested the carbon C60 fullerene with the lionfish, that they had a contamination to it, had a toluene mixture to it, And then they decided to go back and reevaluate the test and found that it didn't matter whether you had something. If you had a pollutant with it, the carbon C60 amplified the effect of the pollutant, making it more toxic. But if you use a pristine carbon C60, a pure form of carbon C60, it still caused major genetic damage to whatever it was exposed to. So it didn't matter what form you took it in. In fact, it has a means of amplifying the problems more so than what they figured. I thought carbon was from cow farts. That's nitrogen. Nitric oxide. Carbon, and the other thing they have told everybody that everybody's carbon based. That's not true at all. Has never been true. But again, because of the high levels of sugar and corn everybody's been eating on, it has created a high level of caramelization or glycation in the body, which makes your body more conductive with these frequencies because of the carbon content you already have. Tony, it's a way to get people to move into the smart future. It's a way to get people broke, squirrel. Has nothing to do with getting people to move anywhere. People are going to move where they want you to go, irregardless of what they bring out as a tax. They're going to just hit you with frequencies. Okay, when the 5G comes in, when the 5G starts to come in, they're going to be beaming people so that they're going to leave their environments and move closer to the either the main cities or into the mainland further. They've already got designated areas for people that they want to move in, whatever area they want them to move in. A lot of this stuff that they're talking about is all gimmickry. That's all it is. It's all about manipulating the population so they have better control, so they can tag people, which, by the way, we're going to talk about that too. Did you know that they can fly airplanes now and tag you with an airplane? You know, all that crap, those chemtrails, that when they do a low flyby, or when you're out there and you're, you know, in a festivity like a 1st of July, 4th of July, Labor Day, Christmas, New Year's, that they'll do a flyby to dump smart tags. Smart tags? Have you heard the term smart tag? You might want to look that one up too. Smart tags. They are violating people's privacies and freedom of privacy with these smart tags. So they can tag your car, they can tag you, they can tag your clothing, they can tag anything about you, and they can trace you wherever you go without your consent. The military-industrial complex can now violate your rights by tagging you with this smart tag. And the smart tag is at 50 nanometers. 50 nanometers goes through everything. Flesh, blood, brick, mortar, steel, glass, vegetation, aquatic, animal, everything. Everything. This is the future of today. Spyware without you being aware you're being spied on. Imagine you're driving down the road and you happen to look like somebody on their wanted list. And they decide to spray this smart technology on you, which now penetrates and goes through you, and they're tagging you, and trying to find your location, and all of a sudden your doors are being smashed down, and you're being held under arrest because you happen to look like somebody that was on the wanted poster. Can you imagine that? Can you dig it? Don't you feel so much more protected now, knowing that they can spray smart tag technology on you and can trace you wherever you go? This is something that everybody needs to be aware of. Like I said, we got to get teched up. In order to protect yourself with today's violations against your personage, against your freedoms and choices, you're going to have to fight technology with technology. Guns, bullets, bombs, and grenades, and tanks, and rockets are not going to do it. Won't do it. You have to fight fire with fire. You have to be aware of what's going on, and you have to come up with the same kind of countermeasure using the same type of tech or better tech in order to neutralize the capacity to violate you. That's what's going on. And when you hear about these terrorists in the Middle East and out in other places having to deal with stuff like this, then you can start asking the question, why are they responding the way they're responding? Maybe because they don't want to be violated. Maybe they don't want to have their rights and choices limited. Maybe they just want to be left alone. That is a strong possibility. It may not be everything we're hearing on the media, that the media is perpetrating and brainwashing us with. But maybe the simple fact is maybe the people in those respective countries don't want nothing to do with America or Europe. They're happy and content with their own culture. That is a possibility. I was watching Eddie Griffith and doing a show. Made a comment how the United States, wherever they go, they never leave. And he thought this was the United States of America, not the United World Empire. And he made a lot of sense in what he's saying, and he wasn't being, I thought he was very accurate in what he stated. We have empires now, which are corporations, which are running the planet. And these corporations have invaded these countries to take over their resources so they can control these people. And some of these people don't appreciate the fact that this is going on. So the next time you watch the media on the network, maybe you might want to see the truth about what's really happening. Why are these people doing what they're doing? Or are they actually doing anything that the media is saying? That's another thing you may want to pay attention to. Orwell 1984, when you see this movie start off, they're in front of this telethon, seeing whatever they wanted to show them about these terrorists attacking the country, and they were violating, and they were moving in, and they were going to take over and cause all kinds of things to happen, and people were crying and in fear and anxiety, and they stressed them out and gave them PTSD and all this stuff. And then they showed the super soldiers marching in unison, going to fight the oppressor, accommodating the oppressor, conquering them, arresting them, and then executing them. And they were all, thank the state, we are so grateful that the state is protecting us. It was all a lie. All of it. When you're watching television today, that's the biggest cartoon going. The biggest cartoon going. I don't know what's worse. The ones that are perpetrating is supposed to be representing the Almighty, or the media showing you all these other idiosyncrasies and these soap operas to get you to believe this is how you have to conduct your life in order to be whatever. You have to have all these problems going on in your life for it to be a normal life. You have to be divorced. You have to be paying alimony. You have to lose your children. You have to be having affairs. You have to be doing drugs. You have to sound like a gangster. This is what's being perpetrated as normal. That ain't healthy. That ain't even true. But that's the cartoon. So before you go believing in the cartoons, maybe you might want to read a book, because it's fundamental. Consider that a invitation to expand your mind in the real realm of reading and understanding, and not just reading and understanding, but actually exercising what you've just read. That's how you learn things. You read something and then you apply it. That's how you grow in wisdom, by having experiences. And the only way you get experiences is by actually testing the things you are reading to see if there's any validity to what it is you're reading and seeing. The health food industry is the biggest cartoon going, next to the other two things I mentioned. It will tell you what you want to hear. It'll blow sunshine up your backside and tell you that everything is all right in the world if you take these products. If you use this super duper pooper trooper. If you take this pill, swallow this liquid, eat this stuff, You will be you will exude health and be the epitome of health for everybody to see. And then when you take this stuff, you look like hell, you're dying, you're sick, you don't feel right, you have no energy, and it doesn't cross your mind that what you've been taking has actually caused you the problem, but you keep on buying the stuff that they perpetrate because that's the cartoon. George Carlin said you have to be asleep to believe it. That applies to a lot of different things, including your health. When you take things for your health, do the research. Understand they don't always give you all the information required to understand why these things work, but they'll give you a general idea what they're supposed to do. I hear the music. Come on back and we'll get into it more. See you in a bit. Hey, we are back on the channel, Micro Effect Broadcasting Network. Hi, my name is Tony Pantelresco, and you're listening to The Remedy. We are going to see if we can get remedies and keep you in your perspectives in the proper way. We were talking about, geez, I forgot what we were talking about now. Talking about C60 and the toxicity. When we're looking at, I'm going to give you the study. We're going to get into it. We're looking at smart tags and a bunch of other things, and I'm gonna again get you guys to look at the smart tag technology, because like I said, this is something that you need to again understand. We're no longer in that world of innocence and freedom and everything else that we thought we once had. We're no longer living in that realm, and we're no longer living in a realm of choice. We're living in a realm of being manipulated in whatever form or fashion to get us into whatever direction they want to get us into. And like I said, when you're watching these cartoons from the hell channels, you better understand that these guys don't care about you. They don't care, they don't care, and they don't care. All they care about is a fool and his money are soon departed. That's what they care about. And if they can part you from your money, that's all that matters. And if something should happen in the process while you're using these products, oh well, c'est la vie. You should have read, you should have studied, you should have looked into this better. This is your fault, not mine. I just gave you what you wanted. If you didn't know what to take or didn't know what it was you were taking, that is not my problem. And that's how they look at it. That is how they look at it, just so you understand. Alrighty, let's get into this. Let me get back in the room here. Hold on. Tony, because the bill rewards carbon reduction, farms and rural folk can use a variety of different ways to grow food in greenhouses with heat from a char-making furnace and an ammunition box and a wood stove does it. The char in the garden is soil improves. Okay. Yeah, that's another thing that they talk about, cow emissions being so toxic. That's such a lot of bunk. The cows actually restore the soil. It's complete opposite of what they're telling us. Again, it's another misdirect. This is another one of those things that they're telling us that cows are the problem. We've got too many cows on the planet. As a result, the cows are the problem. Really? The cows are the problem. It's because they're releasing all the carbon in the atmosphere through things like carbon C60 and methane and other things. That's where the problem arises. There you go. There you go. And again, this is the cartoon. So when you're, like I said, when you're reading anything that they're telling you today, honestly, 90% of it will be a cartoon. It'll be a Bugs Bunny cartoon show that they want you to fall for. And again, you need to read. All right, let's get into this C60 thing there so everybody will see how much crap that NASA screwed with. Okay. However, there are several unanswered questions about fullerenes and their toxicological properties. The evaluation shows that the reactivity and quantum chemical properties of C60 can have unexpected effects in the cell by principally absorbing metabolites such as oxygen and hydrogen ions and alter its reactivity. So it can deplete your oxygen levels and then and again concentrate the hydrogen levels, or it can create a problem with both the oxygen and the hydrogen. Okay, based on the electronic properties of C60 that vary considerably with their size and reaction path, a further example of this absorption of divalent zinc ions, which shows an increase in reactivity of C60 that presents an important pattern of chemical state, reactivity, and toxicological potential. Carbon C60 amplifies problems. That's what it does. The results evaluate the toxicological potential of C60 from a different angle than conventional by applying a blend of critical review of the findings of C60 toxicity, their chemical and electronic properties. Mutagenicity. This creates mutagenic effects. Potential health, the environmental phase of nanoproducts and potential health adverse effects gradually being studied, but unfortunately after the implementation of many new products. This is true. They never tested nano anything. They put it on the market, they sold the products, and figured the consumer could be the guinea pig. Welcome to the cartoon called Nano Exploration Given to Mankind. That's the name of the cartoon. The production of nanomaterials encompasses carbon nanotubes, fullerenes, graphene sheet, and many other formats of carbon nanomaterials for the improvement of technological, industrial, and medical products. Hold on a second. Okay. Fullerenes such as buckyballs, carbon C60 are a group of carbon nanomaterials formed as a spherical nano ensemble which ranges from C20 to C720 and larger, typically forming empty closed cage structures which are made up of multiple 5-member and 6-member rings. When you actually look at that, it looks like you got a hexagon and a pentagon together. They are, who's this now? Okay. They are applied primarily in medical and bio-nanotechnology structures. Okay, then go on. They exhibit a wide range of biological activities. Areas of application include transport of drugs through dense tissues, for instance in tumors, DNA, and photocleavage and gene delivery. Now, the problem with this is they don't tell you how this stuff comes out, if it comes out at all. This is one of those double-edged swords where you say this is going to cure you, this is going to help you, this is going to do X, Y, Z, and yet it doesn't come out, which then can cause more problems inside the system. In energy systems such as organic solar cells, the unique and highly versatile electronic properties of fullerenes are taken advantage of because they are superconductive. They liberate electrons which are generated at the junction with the resin they are bound with. Now imagine this. They liberate electrons generated at the junction with the electrons they're bound with. Now, what if you're taking a pharmaceutical or a nutraceutical, a vitamin, supplement, whatever, and it has a resin in it with this material? What does that do? Makes you wonder. An important property of fullerenes is the capacity to pass membranes, and this allows in-drug delivery. It also now they're being used in nutraceutical delivery as well. So be careful if you see anything that says nano delivery or anything on a nano scale. Because when they put this in there like that, they're basically hijacking you. And you have to understand this is what's going on. This is not about making something better. This is about a delivery method that will get inside the system and cause you problems. Here's one of the main issues with the morphology changes. This can impact in the ability to remove carbon C60 due to its density and strength and the body's ability to break it down or expunge this. And the implication of the hydrogen that is uptaking, making terahertz frequencies that much more damaging the system to the higher concentration of hydrogen, which the terahertz frequencies get augmented when exposed, causing more DNA damage to the host of this tech. So that's one of the problems that it can cause. Again, the fact that it's superconducting. See, when it gets inside the body, because this stuff is 3 times harder than diamond and 100 times harder than steel or stronger than steel, you have no way of breaking this down. Again, something they forget to tell you. You can't break it down. You have no way of breaking this down. So as a result, it can then translocate and embed itself somewhere and cause more problems. And again, because of how it regulates the hydrogen in the body, it can then be utilized to increase the hydrogen concentrations in the areas so that when a terahertz frequency does hit you, you're now feeling the full effect. The chemical reactivity of fullerene C60 has been known for several years. They've known about this for several years, okay? Go here. So, taking this to another level, program delivery in essence, when one is taking a medication, okay, we know about that. So if you take a medication that may have this material, can create problems for you. See here. Reporting toxicology properties of C60. It has been debated and opposed since the early 1990s. Fullerenes have been widely studied for health and adverse effects in the last years and have shown to be interfering with several mechanisms in the body of animals and men and women. However, the principal toxicology properties of fullerenes is due to the predominantly apolar characteristics, which they show in an illustration here. Compatibility with merging with biological membranes in organisms. In other words, this thing will fuse with anything. The fullerenes strong detrimental effects and induce cell death within 3 hours in the rat liver cells. They're showing you rat studies, but here they're saying that it causes cell death in the liver within 3 hours giving it to a rat. Furthermore, several crucial cellular factors such as ATP and thiol levels, that's like your sulfur levels, were depleted by the fullerenes because the sulfur is trying to bind with this thing to remove it out of the body. The fullerenes were also found to cause substantial damage on the mitochondrial membrane, particularly the high hydroxylated fullerene types, which induce chemical modification of the lipid molecules. It was found that out of the several membranes in hepatocytes, the mitochondrial membranes were affected mostly negatively. Mitochondrial malfunction, metabolism, the production of all cellular energy occurs in the mitochondria by means of oxidation using oxygen. The electron transport system relating to the energy production occurs within the inner membrane crista of the mitochondria. The Krebs cycle of energy production occurs within the matrix proportion of the mitochondria. 85% to 90% of the body's oxygen is consumed by the mitochondria. Mitochondrial DNA was completely analyzed. It was shown that mitochondrial DNA could be mutated, that cytoplasmic had serious consequences affecting the oxidation of phosphorylation and respiration. Without oxidative phosphorylation, you cannot produce ATP. And if you don't produce ATP, you wind up having cellular death. Okay, again, this is what the next article is actually saying. It was found that several membranes of this led directly to the dysfunction of adenosine 50 triphosphate, ATP, synthesis and cell death. So as you can see, this doesn't increase longevity, but it has a complete opposite effect. Hydrophobic particles were more hydrophilic, while simultaneously introducing other side effects. In other words, instead of being water repellent, they became more water integrated. The mechanisms present a unique and perhaps novel form of toxicity where innocuous molecules such as water are transported by the toxic agent into domains within the cells where they become detrimental, act as co-contaminant. Again, this is what I said earlier, how it can actually amplify the toxins that are already there. And this mechanism could, in principle, work with other co-contaminants. An additional observation is that modified fullerenes may become more biocompatible if organic and or charged additives are present. Due to the various modifications, fullerenes may resemble cellular components, particularly proteins, because of the spherical structure and amphiphilic nature and stable conformation. This may therefore make it easier for fullerenes to pass unhindered by the body's defense mechanisms, because protein is used by the body for all kinds of things, from enzyme production to cellular regeneration to tissue regeneration and for muscle growth. It has an anabolic effect. So when you're seeing this stuff and how it works and way it works and what it does, the term that you got to consider here, such a mechanism of increased toxicity through increasing bioavailability or bioresemblance. If it can fool the body to make it think it's part of the body, or it's a component of the body, or because it has the capacity to make itself readily utilized by the system, this is where it bypasses the immune system's capacity to defend. Where toxins are more efficiently transported throughout the lungs due to their compatibility with the tissue, with the issue. Biocompatibility can thus be facilitate hormonal disturbances and other pathophysiological effects. So when we're looking at this stuff, it's hitting us on every front. When we're looking at how it's attacking mitochondria, ATP, and now the hormones themselves for reproduction. So when we're looking at this stuff again, and we take a look at it, hormonal influence for fullerenes is directly shown in animal studies, mainly on fish studies, and more in one study in particular, the effects of pristine. Now, the term pristine C60 means pure and clean or high quality. Were assessed toward the ability of zebrafish to uptake hormones. The formed nanoaggregates reduce the uptake of estradiol derivatives in fish by absorbing them. The induced hormonal changes in the zebrafish and showed that pristine C60 in aquatic environment gave indeed bio-interfering effects. Pristine C60 are known to form aggregates in aqueous solutions of up to multiple nanometers in diameter and hundreds of nanometers in length. They bind strongly to organic matter and has the potential of depleting organic nutrients from aquatic habitats. Wow. So they're basically doing to the water supply what they're doing to the land, by putting anti-nutrient components in the system so they can poison the well, literally. Also, pre-C60, interestingly, absorbed in the small intestine of fish, reaching almost 100% uptake in zebrafish. And C60 is in passing the intestinal blood barrier of the intestinal tract. Studies have used different carriers of pristine C60 in the study on fish embryos. The results showed how aggregates of pristine C60 in combination with aromatic compounds experimentally used and tested as carriers inhibited the neutrophil function and affected embryonic development. They're basically calling it a teratogenic poison. In other words, it affects the fetus. Most occurring consequences of the intoxication of pristine C60 suspended in toluene in fish embryo was mortality. Well, the second deformity of pristine C60 was found in a study, another study, which they used DMSO with, a strongly polar compound. This combination causes a much higher effect on malformation and delayed development of fish embryos. In combination with water only, pristine C60 induced mortality in 28% of the embryos. Almost 30% of the fish died just using a pure C60. How did NASA contort these things is beyond me. Complete contortion. It makes you kind of think, you wonder if they're out there trying to actually create a problem for people. Possibility. The effects of the ability of pristine C60 to penetrate the cell membrane and its ability to bind to co-contaminants in a co-contaminated situation, as for instances in oil and gas leakage, the toxicity of fullerenes can therefore increase. Now, they are binding it with an oil. If there's something in that oil, a contaminant, it's going to increase the toxicity of that oil. However, inversely, the function of pristine C60 as an environmental remediator has been mooted. In other words, it doesn't work, which instigated a positive function of P60 under controlled conditions. In other words, these were all controlled experiments so that in a controlled environment, you would get these results. Okay, and so only in a controlled environment. Okay, this flies in the face of the perpetrators of NASA selling C60 and how they said the studies were flawed, and how they were not done, etc. This shows without question how it can amplify contaminants and pollutants, and whatever it connects to can bypass the defense mechanism of the body, register this as a protein. As a result, it is a Trojan horse and can cause irreparable damage to the ATP, mitochondria, reproductive, enhanced terahertz damage to the collection of hydrogen, and literally is non-doable to clean the environment, as they are also perpetrating, but does the opposite by increasing toxicity effects to whatever's in the environment. This is what is being, like I said, I started off with the cartoons, and this is why I keep telling everybody the need to read. Reading is fundamental. The need to read, okay? The need to check things out, to need to understand some things ain't what they, if something, there was always used to be an old saying in this industry, if it's too good to be true, it isn't. So I'm also going to say at this stage, you need to support the Microfact Broadcasting Network. Give them your support. Help them any way you can. Ask what you can do to give them a hand. Keep the station floating and moving. You got Brian396, ByeByeBlueSky.com, Get Canada, AugmentedForce.com. Check out the sites, get educated, understand what's going on, read, study. Check out the sites. On my site, there's a catalog link. Feel free to access the catalog link. There's the bucket, there's the triangle, there's the repellers, there's the books on DVD, there's the flash drive, there's all kinds of things there. Feel free to check it out. If you feel you wish to support, give your support any way you can. Anyhow, it will always be appreciated. So if you need a consultation, again, get a hold of me, 519-977-5351, or independs@yahoo.com, INDEPENDZ@yahoo.com. There are so many things about today's times that makes you really have to reevaluate whatever you think you're seeing on the cartoon channels. YouTube and other venues have their place, and they have good things as well. There are some educational sites on those channels. But even so, when you're watching these channels, start to test what you're watching. Don't sit there like a bump on a stump just being entertained. If you see something that's educating you, go test it to see what they're showing you has merit. You'll find you're going to go a long way in regarding to, learning. And then if you make the thing yourself and you get off your, the bump of a stump, and you get off of that and you start doing things, then you will see for yourself what it is you're doing, and you will learn just from doing it on your own. You have no idea how much this will evolve you and move you forward in your quest to become better or more evolved or more developed. So don't just sit there and be entertained. Get with it. Get with the program. Get off your backside. Go there and do stuff. Learn. All right, we'll see you Thursday. Till then, get together and brainstorm. And read. It's fundamental. Take care.